This is our APES review session number 2. Today is April 21. It's 8:06 p.m. Um, and we're recording. Um, I see a question in my chat that I wanted to answer. Miranda, if by Great Revolution you mean the Green Revolution, the odds are good that you would see that on the AP exam. The changes in agriculture that intensified production at a time that population was rising, food production grew even faster. The Green Revolution, if that's what you meant, I think it's very likely it would end up on the exam. All right. Um, I've improved our technology from last time. There's a few things I want to show you today. I could get through this in 10 or 15 minutes and then we'll have some open question and answer time. Um, if you did the right stuff, you should have already all of your units organized with any missing work filled in. If you have not assembled all of your apes unit notes, you're gonna run out of time soon. I think you should get on that right away. By Thursday at the latest, I'd like you to have all of your unit notes assembled. Um, in our current section of apes, you won't have unit 7 and you won't have unit 9 yet. But for everybody else, I want you to have all your notes assembled by Thursday. And I want you to fill in any missing work. Then, what everybody should be working on this week, because hopefully they've already done what I just said, um, I'd like you to start adding material. And I need you to start looking for stuff you haven't heard from me. Nationwide, when the College Board checks on average, they give most courses between 60 and 85% completion rate, meaning they think that teachers are teaching about 60 to 85% of the content. Um, I guess the nationwide average would be 72% in that case. Um, when we look in our class, it looks like we're at the high end of that. As far as I can tell, there aren't major omissions in my class. Um, I catch a few here and there, but it looks like we're doing pretty well as a class. Problem is, they could ask you about any invasive species, and there's no teacher who could teach all of them. They could ask you about any endangered species or any instance of pollution. So now, what I'd like you to do this week, the theoretical second week, is to find every possible source of material and see what you can add. Someone asked me before I started recording, is so and so a good source of vocab? And I said, sure. But if you find any new information, make sure that you go back to the appropriate section of your notes and add it in there. It's really important for the secondary memory cues. It helps one small part of your brain to sort through your brain and find that term later. For example, if you didn't know what that period was called when we intensified agriculture in the 60s, and you're watching somebody give a lecture about the Green Revolution, you go, oh, I didn't know that word. I need to add that. Don't put it on a separate sheet of paper. Don't write it after your 10 unit packets. If you've heard something that's relevant to agriculture, you'd have to go to your own unit 4 notes And as a matter of fact, if you can get close enough, find something about chemical use or pesticides or industrialization or productivity or selective breeding and add the notes as close as you can physically get them to the last time you had similar material in your own notes. What a lot of us find really hard to believe is if you were to make a content map on paper, that is a very close analog to your brain's mental map to recall that information. Someday we could talk more about how memory works, but trust me, you'll want to look for information and then apply it to the appropriate part of your APES class notes. I'd like you to talk to students in other environmental science classes, like maybe you know some people at Santa Barbara City College or in Miss Khan's class, and you could just, you know, go out for coffee, say, hey, listen, bring all the units and ask them, like, what do you know about agriculture? And then they just start rattling off terms and rattling off concepts, and you're like, yo, I hadn't heard that thing about agriculture. So you go to your agriculture notes and you throw it in. If you don't have friends or whatever, um, you could go to the AP course description. You could just Google around on the internet and look for information that shows up in the course description that you don't know about. Or you could use these two YouTube channels. If you're watching on a phone, get ready to take a screenshot. If you're watching at home, I'm going to put the links into the chat. Ooh, sorry. It'll take me a second, but I'll put them in the chat. This is one of them. Most people know Mr. Smeeds. This guy makes like excellent, excellent little videos. Um, Super good lecturer. I'm sure he's a much better teacher than I am. And he's got stuff in like every unit. He's got a review packet. Um, the name is Mr. Smeeds. And I think I can put this into the chat for everybody. Yeah. Go to the chat, either cut and paste or whatever. If you're on a phone, take a screenshot. Um, the other source that I have found really good is the College Board itself. They make like really good review videos. And I'll give you a hint. You never know which one is which, but a small number of APES teachers nationwide write almost the entire AP exam. So, like, the ones who are giving these videos, these are each taught by a different person. Um, if you go to their reviews, it's extremely likely that one of those people will be the ones who wrote your questions this year. I think there's a total of like 24 people who write the whole thing, and a number of them are employed by the College Board for other stuff, like these lectures or like the trainings that I would go to. So the closer you can get to College Board content, the more likely it is that you'll have some previews into the upcoming exam. I'm going to try to put this in the chat as well, but I realize this is not exactly the best. This is a playlist that was more specific 1 year ago. I believe you can figure out YouTube better than I can to find other College Board stuff. Sorry, I had to restart this because I butterfingered it. Okay. Aside from Miss Khan students, City College students, randomly just searching around on the internet and using YouTube, College Board and Mr. Smeeds, there are a couple of additional assignments in Canvas that I'd like you to do in particular, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like this coming weekend. Um, those two assignments are these. In your Unit 11, you should have for April 25, 26, 27, which I believe is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this coming weekend. An environmental atlas where I'd like you to build an actual paper map, bigger the better. If you can't afford a map to stick on the wall, try to see if mommy and daddy can give you like a large format printout. If not, try one of each continent, like tape them on your closet or whatever. And then you're going to look through your book, you're going to look through your notes, you're going to look through all the sources you can find and like put a pin, so to speak, in every place on that map that shows up in your notes or on YouTube or whatever. So, for example, if you read in Unit 8 that there was a nuclear meltdown in Chernobyl, Belarus, I'd like you to go to the map and figure out what the Russia looks like and where Belarus is, and then figure out where Chernobyl is. And like, I don't think you're going to put a bunch of pins on your closet door, but like circle it. And somewhere else on a key, I want you to write like number one, Chernobyl, Belarus, world's largest nuclear disaster, full reactor breach, 1985 or whatever it was. Um, I'd say you could spend a few hours doing this. If you really want to invest, it's not how many details you write, it's how many places you find. So the main review packet, um, this one, this one has a bunch of places. There's like a list of the 10 most famous places in that review packet. Put those on the map. There goes 10 minutes. Then flip through your book, go through every unit. If you find a place that they're talking about, like this lake in Philadelphia or this city in New York or whatever, put those on your map. And you're probably 45 minutes down. So now you could just Google like most famous environmental locations or most famous environmental impacts or the worst polluted places or the most famous, whatever. Look it up. If you could do 3, 4, 5 hours, get like 50 or 60 places on your map with like a key that corresponds to that map, you did the assignment. The second thing I want you to do is look for case studies. I know that some of you took this class last term. I have books I can lend you in my class. The library will check them out to you during this period of time. Um, Again, if they're like a place, put it on a map and then try to keep a list going, like a running list of like famous places, famous events, famous examples. Because the AP exam is kind of like Law and Order, it'll be like inspired by real events. So a lot of times, if you've heard about the Menendez brothers killing their parents, you'll be watching a fictional story and you're like, "Oh, I totally know this. It turns out the dad was a bad dude and these guys end up going to jail for it." And then when you get to that part of the story, you knew what was going to happen. This happens on the AP test. It happens a lot. The more places you know, the more examples you know from the real world, the more you'll recognize all of their questions. They don't really use their imagination. They look through the real world of environmental science and they ask you questions about it. Um, those are your two assignments from the book. And then a week from today, before you come see me, so on April the 28th, put it in your book, make yourself a reminder, whatever. I'd like you to take any multiple choice exam. Try to get a real one, try to get a recent one. So if you can figure out the AP Central, that's good. If you can't figure it out, my Canvas has like some pretty recent ones. I don't remember where they are, but they're in here somewhere. Yeah, there they are. The most recent one I have is like 2010, but you can just like print it out and take it on paper. Um, you can go to the AP Classroom website for our class, and somewhere you can like figure it out. I'm sure there's practice exams. I'd like you to spend exactly 90 minutes. Is it 90? Yeah, it's 90 minutes. And I want you to take a full test, like in a real setting. Timer, no cell phone, no distractions, nothing else on your table, no sound. Like lock yourself up in your room or tell mommy and daddy you're taking over the office or whatever. Go into the treehouse and spend 90 minutes like banging out a multiple choice test. And I don't really care what your results are. It's not predictive. So you could do really great on this multiple choice exam and fail the APES test, or you could do really poorly on this multiple choice exam and you could kill the APES test. It's not relevant how well you do. What is relevant is all the things on that multiple choice test that you didn't know. This is like a topical analysis to see when you're done with the test, numerically, how many energy questions did you miss? Or how many water or how many ecology questions did you miss? We're going to use a real multiple choice test to figure out which units you maybe already know about. I mean, if you don't miss a single ecology question on a practice test, you can probably take units 2 and 3 and just leave them in your desk, right? If you like didn't get a single math question right, then like, bro, probably a priority. That's going to be like 10 questions on the exam. Maybe I need to go sit with a math teacher at homeroom next week. Um, that's your plan for this week. You're going to finish assembling all your notes if you haven't already, and then you're going to add as much new material as you possibly can before you do the environmental atlas this weekend and before you do the other thing that I said. Um, take a multiple choice. Take a multiple choice exam on Monday before we meet again. Make sure you keep things in units. Whatever. Oh, case studies, right? Make sure you keep things in units. If a case study is about water, add it to unit 7. If a case study is about basic food webs, add it to unit number 2. But make sure you keep stuff in units. Okay. Organized paper is good for organized memory. It's science, I swear. Um, what do you want to know? Oh no, I only put those links to a single student. I'll be right back. Oh, what do you guys want to know?
There's a smaller tests on like the AP uh classroom website. How do you get like a full test?
Um, I have some of those in um oh crap, I can't figure this out. I have some of those in my Canvas. Um, and then AP Classroom does release full ones, I think. But if you want, um, here is uh 2010, 2003, and 1998 multiple choice. And then here's like every FRQ ever. until 2024 anyway. Did you mean multiple choice? Or do you mean FRQ?
Multiple choice.
You could send me an email and I'll see if I can build you a test that I can assign to you. Do you mind sending me that email and I'll push it out to everybody?
An email about what?
That I should build for you a multiple choice test in AP Classroom.
Okay.
Because I think I can pick individual questions and assign them. So I might be able to go and select whatever year they've released and send it out to everybody.
Okay.
What else?
So should we just wait for that and then we'll do that multiple choice test that you send out?
I have a feeling that if you dig around, you'll find a whole test because I feel like I have found whole tests. Um, but yeah, you should definitely dig around, see if you find one. It might take me a day or two to figure it out, so you could probably find one before I get there. But this is all for next Monday anyway, so in the next couple of days, I'll try to tell everybody if I have found a whole multiple choice test that I can share with you. I'll put it into the same remind messages that you're using. Somebody asked me, do I recommend taking a full length practice exam before the actual exam, or is doing the actual multiple choice and then the FRQ later enough? I think that they have different purposes. I don't recommend a full 3 hour practice exam. It's not very predictive. And a full FRQ is very laborious. All that writing. I don't recommend writing a whole question as a whole because honestly, you've practiced that already like 10 times in my class. And by now, you probably are about as good as you're going to get at the writing of answers. Multiple choice, I like early in the review process to assess which units you're strong and weak on. That happens next Monday. FRQ, I recommend right at the end, right before the exam, like in the last weekend before the exam or something. And I talk you through all of that in here. What I think that FRQs are good for, here it is. What I think FRQs are good for is for you to get in the habit of picking through the question. By the way, our Zoom will end in 10 minutes or less. I think that practice FRQs, it really is pointless for you to spend like 22 and a half minutes writing another essay. Because, like, the whole thinking of it as writing an essay is already screwed. You've already made a mistake. Like, no, don't do that. I think what you should do is look at an FRQ and be like, what do I need to remember? What is this question asking me to do? And then you build a quick little outline, and that should take you like 2-3 minutes per question. And then you go to the next one. Getting that habit practiced where you build your outlines in about 3 minutes per question, that's very helpful. They basically never repeat a free response question. That's why they release them every year because they know they're not going to ask it again. You can see every free response question that's ever been asked. I have them all, and so does the College Board. And you'll notice that they're not repetitive. So the habit you'll want is the part of picking them out and making an outline. You'll do different things with the two parts of the practice exam. What else do you want to know? It looks like we're going to finish in about 8 minutes. Maybe we're going to finish right now. I'm eating watermelon. Are we done? Looks like we're done. Canvas has the map. This screen has what you need to do. I put the links to the YouTube in the chat. I'm sorry that I sent them to one student instead of to everybody. Take those links from the chat if you need them, or screenshot this screen I'm about to change. And also changing now, screenshot this one. You guys are ready. This is the hard part. Assembling your notes is the hard part. This is the part of review, like the 10 or 11 of you that are here, you're all going to pass. Like, that's not because I like you. It's just that you're gonna, like, this is the hard part. If you guys get this done, you're gonna pass. Next couple of weeks, they become a little bit more targeted. We'll start to talk about chemistry and math and experimental design and FRQs and stuff, but this is going to be the hard part. Like, as many sources as you can find. Use all of your testing time tomorrow and the day after. Use your golden time on Thursday. Bring your own food from home and use your lunches. See if you can rack up all this crap. It helps a lot. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Unless you have a question, I'm just going to eat my watermelon and go away. Bye.
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 Thank you, Zach.
Where's my mouse? Bye. Sorry, Simon, go away.